Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Davidson. I'm from Envoy Ground Handling Services organization, and I went to Auburn University and graduated in 2018, but we wanted to come and share about what Envoy Ground Handling is and kind of provide some industry support to the students. I know that in challenging times, one thing that I would want as a student is, someone to be there and answer questions and, ask about the industry too. And we're here to answer any questions you have that we can answer and kind of give you a snapshot of Envoy and its relationship with the American Airlines Group and the non-flying side. So I studied a little bit of background on me. I graduated in 2018, started in 2014, and I was a member of Striped Wings, Alpha Theta Rho, and then I was actually a refounding member of the Women in Aviation chapter. I guess, was that 2016, maybe 2015? And so through that time, that's when the aviation program went through tons of changes. So we were in the College of Business. I started right when there were lots of things changing the program. And then when I graduated was right around the time that they changed over to the College of Liberal Arts. So I was through everything, but I stuck in the School of Business. And while at Auburn, you kind of had to find your way as an aviation management student. And I think that Alan, so backstory, we were looking for our intern this summer before COVID happened. And I was like, we need to go to Auburn. We need to go to Auburn. Our pilot side was going. And so they said, come along. And Alan, who's on the line, who's one of my managers, went and was blown away with it. So we said, what can we do to help the students and provide support? And so thank you everyone for having us and letting us give this presentation for y'all. But before we begin, I'll let Alan introduce yourself too.
Yeah, hey, so good evening everybody. Just to make sure you can hear me, right? Okay, so Isabel, of course, like Joseph said, thanks for orchestrating this. And I do kind of want to speak, and I see a couple names here that I remember from that event. So I went to another school in the SEC, but you don't need to know the name. And so we had an aviation program, and it was a good program. So I have my ATP. I flew 121 for a little while, flew 135 for a little while, and the flying side just never really completed what I was after. So coming over into management and what we're going to talk about, that's why I'm here. But before I get into my background, just to let you know, as Joseph mentioned, I was fortunate enough to come to Auburn. What was that, Joseph? I don't even remember, maybe January, February. But man, I was blown away. If you guys and gals ever get an opportunity to go to another school to look at their facilities, you're going to be back at Auburn pretty quickly, because I'm telling you, you've got a tremendous setup and you were most definitely set up to succeed. So I just wanted to let you know, very impressed, and I will always do whatever I can to support you from Auburn, especially in our department. So I'm Alan, there on the left. That's me and what was known as the best airplane in the air. That was the Super 80 for American Airlines, and unfortunately they're retired now. So I started in 2007. I'm quite a bit older than all of you. I've been here for 14 years, and or I'm working on my 14th year. So I started at the airport. I started as a part-time agent, and if you recall, I was flying. So I was building my seniority with, it was American Eagle at the time only, and I just wanted to go into flying. And then my eyes were exposed to the management side, and it allured me much more. So I've been here for a while. Left the field back in 2016, came to headquarters. I was actually in Joseph's role that he's in now. I've kind of bounced around the department. I was very fortunate enough to be able to be part of the selection and getting Joseph on as an intern and then bring him on full time. And it's not my credit. Joseph did a terrific job as an intern, and that's why we're coming back to Auburn. So like I said, been here a while, love what I do. Envoy's a great company. It's even better that we are owned by American Airlines, so we get caveats on both sides of the house. So Joseph, I think that's pretty much all for me.
Yeah, and Alan's, one thing I like to say is that in terms of career growth, Alan's a really great example of someone who learns an operation and kind of starts and really gets to know the airline industry and then works his way up both in the operation and in headquarters. So from an agent to a general manager, and then coming in as an analyst like I am, and then working his way up to managing part of our department as well. So a little bit about my professional side. So I had the opportunity in the summer of 2017 to intern with Envoy in our policy and procedures department with Alan and the rest of the team. Alan was in the position that I'm in at the time. I worked on, and I have some notes of kind of what I did. So I worked on different projects like our basic economy initiative and how we were going to staff that. And then from that to things like improving processes and seeing where, you know, we may be short in terms of staffing and safety and things like that. So that's what I did as an intern. I also traveled all around, which was kind of the best part and kind of kept me in the industry. I graduated in August of 2018 and worked for another company until January. And then I had the opportunity to come on full time. And I've been here for almost 2 years doing airport workforce planning. And so a little bit about what that is, and because that's kind of what a lot of the presentation is. What airport workforce planning is, it's a lot of analysis into our staffing assumptions and how we staff an airport operation to ensure that we're doing it efficiently, that we're in budget, and that we're providing the best service for American Airlines. So I will and I'll let Alan start here, but then I'll kind of talk about that later.
Yeah, so Isabel, before we go any further, is this kind of an open forum so people can ask questions as they go, or if we can call on people to make sure they're paying attention? Because that's my
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, this is open. The chat's open as well, so anybody can reach out there. And if you guys have any questions that you don't want to say out loud, that you just want to type it in there, you can either send it to me or you can send them directly to Joseph and Alan as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, and stop us too as we go along, please, 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 because it's just a new way to present. So, you know.
I mean, I would rather us all just have a casual conversation versus us just killing you with a PowerPoint. So don't forget, we went to college too. So, all right, I'll go through my timeline here for a little while. So we were founded in 1998 as an airline and as a ground handler. And that's pretty unique because if you go to an airport today, you'll either see one of two categories. You'll see the airport or you'll see the ground handler. So we were fortunate enough to be both at the same time. From 1998 to 2011, we only ground handled regional equipment. And so you could think, well, why is that important? Because that's a really big deal, because if you go up the road to Birmingham, there's a pretty high chance that you're going to fly out on some mainline metal, so American Airlines metal. Well, back in those days, we didn't touch that metal, but now, fast forward to 2020 and the crazy world we're in, we are very fortunate to be able to handle mainline and things like that. But also along the way, you can see there on the timeline from 2011, 2012, really, we grew as a company to handle not only mainline, but other airlines. And so, man, if you were around in those days, they were very confusing. And what I mean by that is we would handle one gate would be American Airlines, and the next gate would be American Eagle, and then the next gate around the corner, that would be United. And so you can totally appreciate that's like juggling three classes at one time. Everybody had their own standard. And what you got to remember is American and United Airlines hated each other. They still do. And so, but yet they put us in a position to ground on both. So it was a very unique situation. So we did that till 2014 when we found ourselves post-merger with US Airways. And so I know some of your names, you've done a lot of research on Envoy, and that really excites me. But that's when we were called American Eagle. And in today's world, that is a brand. American Eagle is a brand. So we changed our name to Envoy Air. So for those of us that have been around for a very long time, we still consider ourselves American Eagle. It's childish what we do. We can't quite cut the cord. So Envoy Air, that's what we mean by the same thing. And Joseph, I know you understand the feeling. So we find ourselves after this merger kind of scratching our head, what are we going to do? So what we decided is we can't really be successful in a merger if we're giving business to United Airlines and Delta Airlines. So what we did is we exited that market. So we stopped handling other airlines, and that was at the time a very good move, and still today it's a great move that we did that because we're exclusive with American Airlines. In 2018, we grew again, and we started adding business for ourselves in places like Miami, to where Joseph is going to speak to in just a few moments about support services. But we kind of identified a market that nobody ever tapped into, where American had historically They've been contracting this work out to these vendors, and it is just an astronomical price. But then we said, hey, put our name in the hat. We got the business, and Joseph, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are extremely efficient at what we do when it comes to support services, and we're growing business. So it's exciting times. And then from 2016 to 2019, my personal favorite, because I was in Joseph's role at the time, we added 21 stations. And if you can sit back and think, 21 stations, just assume 10 people ahead. We really grew the airline. Man, it was a great time to be around, and we still find ourselves in that situation. And then kind of right in the thick of all that in 2019, we ratified a contract with our CWA, which is our frontline above the wing workers. And if you know anything about unions, you either love them or you hate them. But what we found is we had a work group out, and they were not protected. So you don't need to know my personal stance, but now we have 100% coverage for union and our employees. So Joseph, I think that covers the timeline. If nobody has questions, I'm just going to start calling on people in a few minutes. I'm going to start with Zach Bell.
I think we can add a new 2020 COVID. So that's our new project with an airline.
Yeah,
so.
Surviving COVID for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Isabel, I think we're good for the next slide.
I think, do I do that? There we go. So is there an orange box in the screen? Just curious.
Yeah, I think so, but it comes in and out. So
okay, all right.
Yeah,
I don't have that. Okay. So a little bit about Envoy Ground Handling and what airline ground handling is. So what we do is we provide a service for an airline, ground handling. So we provide above the wing support and below the wing support for all the flights in an airport. So Envoy ground handles in 4 hubs for American, which are Chicago, Dallas, Miami, and LA, and then the 2 gateways, LaGuardia and JFK, and then in 110 outstations throughout Canada, the United States, and the Caribbean. Our scope has changed as we've adapted through COVID, but that is kind of where we have our contracts right now. And then just some statistics I have here on the right. So in 2019, in terms of our employees and what we handled in terms of departure, majority were Envoy aircraft, followed by mainline, and then the rest, the different American Eagle partners. And then in terms of aircraft that we handle, the largest aircraft and the most frequent aircraft that we handle is the large regional jets. So all those American Eagle jets with first class, and then followed by the small regionals, and then mainline, and then narrow bodies and wide bodies. And in 2019, we handled approximately 1,800 departures a day. So if you think in terms of American Airlines groups departures of around 6,000, if give or take some, that's a really big percentage of the network that we handle. So I'm just going to kind of give you some fun facts about our hubs and gateways where we currently operate. So in Chicago, we provide above and below the wing regional ground handling support for the American Eagle product out of 42 gates and 4 concourses. And we are responsible for ground handling and the successful operation of 269 daily departures in 2019, which is about 90,000 departures total last year. In Dallas, we have 60 plus gates. They fluctuate between 60 and 65, and about 3 terminals. So Terminal B, which is exclusively American Eagle, Terminal D, which is our international terminal, and then Terminal E, which is shared with airlines, and then the majority of it is American Eagle. And we handle about 329 daily departures there as well. And what's really special also about Terminal E is that in 2019, we took over the Terminal E satellite. So we, being American and Envoy, overnight had to support an operation increase of 100 daily departures, which was really, really special to watch. And Alan and his team and American and Envoy all worked together to make that a really big success. And then our other hub, and LA is a really good example of how our airline has changed during COVID. So I'm going to go down to the last bullet and kind of highlight that. So in 2019, we ground handled about 68 departures, American Eagle departures out of LA. So as you know, American had an American Eagle presence and American Airlines mainline presence there. Our presence was in the Eagle's Nest, is what they call it, so this remote satellite terminal. When COVID happened, American pulled down their regional flying, very, very small, to like 10 flights a day. And we had to figure out what we were going to do as a company and how we were going to keep our presence in Los Angeles. So we took over different functions like mainline and regional aircraft cabin cleaning. We do the wheelchair services there, the baggage service office, and in addition to that, we have the regional ground handling, so that as that builds back up, which is a good thing, we have a very large presence in Los Angeles. We'll see what happens with LA, but we're really proud of where we are there right now. And then Miami. So Miami's my favorite. It's one of the hubs that I'm responsible for. So we actually ground handle out of 20 gates in Terminal D and E. And if you've ever flown to Miami, it's very unique for multiple reasons. But our regional terminal there is horseshoe shaped and it's all ground boarding. So it's different than, it requires different resources than a jet bridge does. So it's just a really cool operation there and a very, very special team. And we also operate throughout the entire terminal. And what's really neat about that is that the terminal's a mile long. So when I go for work trips and things like that, we walk up and down the terminal all day long, watching our special services operation there. So in terms of ground handling and providing their American Eagle product for American, we ground handle on average about 79 daily departures in Miami, both on the 145s and the 175s. And then in addition to that, we do other services that are really, really, really unique compared to other hubs. So we provide the sky caps in Miami. So all the sky caps are Envoy employees. In addition, we do Cuba security. So on an American flight that goes from Miami to Havana, for example, we have to ensure that aircraft is secure when it gets to Cuba and then when it returns. So our agents fly down there and then fly back. And then we also do the wheelchair and unaccompanied minor services for American Airlines Group in Miami. And then some functions that we do and specialize in our hubs and really in our outstations too. When I say above, and this is kind of what I mean when I say above and below the wing. So above the wing, we provide ticket agents, gate agents, and baggage service office functions for American. And then below the wing in our hubs, we do baggage transfer. So our agents are transferring bags on a peak and like a peak schedule when all the flights are coming in and out. We're transferring bags from Eagle flights to mainline American flights, mainline flights to Eagle flights, and then Eagle to Eagle flights. And then a mainline to mainline flight would be worked by mainline American. We do other functions like catering. The biggest thing I think that's changed this year for us is cabin cleaning. Before COVID in March, I remember really early March, February, I remember going to a station and I was like, I want to see how they clean an airplane overnight. And I was really, really, really impressed with pre-COVID cleaning. And then, 3 weeks later, we were thrown into COVID and that's not acceptable anymore. And here we are cleaning aircraft on every turn and everything, disinfecting and fogging. And we've learned a lot about how to clean aircraft. And we can talk more about that later if you have questions. And then we also de-ice and tow aircraft. We clean the lavatories and then we do operations for the route. And then like Alan said on our timeline, we broke into the special service operation in 2018. So in November, we were awarded by American the special service contract in Miami. And then in 2020, with COVID and everything happening, we were awarded it in Los Angeles. So what that did for our business in Envoy, it added over 400 employees in a very short time to Miami. And when I took on the role, it was very new to us. And we had no idea how to really staff the operation efficiently. So I spent a whole entire year visiting Miami, working with the team to develop a staffing model that really put the right number of resources at the right time in Miami to work that operation to ensure that we have agents meeting certain flights in every flight. Every flight's different, meeting the operation there. And then a really cool fact, 1 year after operating the special services, so the wheelchairs, the unaccompanied minors in Miami, I realized through the data and research, so we moved over 780,000 people through Miami in terms of wheelchairs and special services, which is really, really neat. And then in our outstations, just to highlight that, we have 110 outstations where we ground handle for American Airlines Group. 28 of those stations have a oversight, so mainline presence, they oversee our operation, and then 82 are the regional stations where we have management control over. And then, so for some fun facts there, and out of those stations, 41 of those stations, we handle mainline aircraft. And then 69 of those stations, we only handle the American Eagle product. And then again, like I said, we perform similar functions in those outstations like we do in the hubs. And then many outstations, and this is really neat, what we're able to do in an outstation. So let's compare like a Atlanta to a Waco, for example. And I'm going to talk about the cross utilization there. So what we're able to do is take a very small station with little flights and use those employees throughout the entire operation. So like in this picture down here, right here, the employees are in a cross-functional uniform. So they were able to go up and work the ticket counter and the ramp and you know, work the gates. Whereas in an Atlanta, for example, the employees who work below the wing only work below the wing, or the employees who work the ticket counter only work the ticket counter because the operation is so much bigger. And then I have a video, and Isabella, you might have to help me. We'll see if this works. But let's see. This kind of shows what goes on at our airports. This features our airport XNA, so Northwest Arkansas, and the operation.
Saber, and I'm a cross-functional agent at Northwest Arkansas. When I work on the ramp,
It doesn't look like we can see the actual video.
Can you not? Okay.
The aircraft, pushing it out, loading the bags, being in the belly, servicing it. It just depends on what the aircraft needs at that time.
I think.
Also, number two, work above the wing, work ticket
Can you hear
count
it though?
and at the gate.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, cool. Let me reshare the screen because I think I just shared the presentation.
So while this is going on, is this group always this quiet, or should I start calling on people?
We're usually a quiet group, yes. But you guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them while they're getting up the video set up and stuff like that.
Joseph, are you ready?
I can play this really quickly.
Okay, we can see the video this time.
Okay.
And we can hear it.
I'm a cross-functional agent at Northwest Arkansas. When I work on the ramp, just depending on who's out there and what's going on, I could end up marshaling in the aircraft, wing walking the aircraft, pushing it out, loading the bags, being in the belly, servicing it. It just depends on what the aircraft needs at that time.
Also, number two, work above the wing, work ticket counter and at the gate. So I check in passengers at the ticket counter, I board flights at the gate, provide the customer service experience for our passengers. My name is Gabe, and I'm a cross-functional agent here in Northwest Arkansas. Biggest challenges are delays. Traveling can be frustrating, and we understand that. So we show that we understand and we care. We don't want to treat them just as passengers, but as people.
Challenges we have here at XNA could be weather in the winter or the heat in the summer. Trying to stay cool or stay warm is always a challenge. My name's Jason. I'm a cross-functional lead station agent here at Northwest Arkansas.
Safety comes natural to most people, but when you're working with aircraft, you have to really keep in mind when you're servicing an aircraft, approaching an aircraft, that you're treating it with caution. And then when you're working inside, you have to look at the safety of the passengers. You have to make sure that there's nothing going on that poses a risk to them when they're loading the planes, or even when they're coming off of the planes.
Safety is everybody's obligation here. We want to go home the way we came, and so that's everybody's priority to make sure that we work safe in every aspect of this job. My name is Julie Calger, and I'm a cross-functional station agent here at XNA.
What I like most about the job here is the room for advancement and the basic camaraderie with the employees.
I like working with the people that I work with. We form a family and we change shifts. You get a new family. I also like being able to just handle the aircraft in general.
Being able to travel the world, that's definitely a bonus.
I love people. I think you have to love people to enjoy this job. I also like that it changes all day long, every minute of every day. It never stays the same, and I like that.
What's kept me here is stability. The planes are coming and going. And once you get into this line of work, it's either for you or it's not for you. And I love it.
we go.
Hey everyone, my name.
I think we're good. There we go. Can you hear?
Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
Cool.
Good. So thanks, Joseph. So really at Envoy, we have three pillars from which our business model is centered around. And if you know anything about the company, you have heard our CEO say safety, quality, and cost. So if we can go to the next slide here. So these three pillars that we were built upon, safety, quality, and cost. First was safety. So safety's clearly always been number one, but as you can appreciate, and everybody is really in tune with right now is 2020, so we don't know what's coming tomorrow. But safety's, it's never been so important, whether we're talking about COVID, whether we're talking about Joseph cleaning airplanes for COVID, or if we're talking about pilots who haven't flown in 29 days, and here they are flying. So what we really identified is the fact that we have an SMS process that is very robust, and it ensures the safety of our customers, our employees, and our assets. So safety, honestly, and I can tell you the culture at Envoy is, we do have good friends and family and blah, 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 and all that works together, but all that is second to safety. That's just the way it is. We're all molded around that. So, and then that kind of takes us into quality. Quality is something that, Joseph, I know I speak for you, but we pride ourselves on because kind of like what I said earlier, we get to succeed as Envoy, but also we get to succeed as American Airlines. So really the whole goal that we have every day is for, like we'll just say Isabella to fly from Atlanta to Dallas, and then Dallas down to Baton Rouge. There's you a hint, by the way. So whenever you do that, you're going to go from a mainline airplane handled by mainline employees over to the regional side. And the whole goal is for you to never understand anything other than the airplane just got smaller. So we really do pride ourselves in offering a very consistent and a high quality product. And then lastly, cost. So if you remember, I spoke about it and Joseph has also spoken about it at this point. We continue to grow. So here we are in 2020 and it's COVID, and we're back before October. I mean, I don't do politics, but with the PSP, the supplemental fund from the government for COVID-19, everybody was kind of concerned. What's my job going to look like? What am I going to do? Well, Envoy is currently the only regional airline, and I'm not speaking just for American. I'm talking about regional airline. We're the only airline that has a steady growth rate for COVID, and that's because of people like Joseph. It's because of people that we bring in to do analysis as far as interns go. So we're seeing our business in Miami grow. We're seeing our business in LA grow. And all of that is because we have a cost structure that is competitive. And yes, we invest in our employees, but at the same time, we're doing it and we're offering a product at a quality rate that others just cannot do. So it's a fun time. So that's our three pillars. Joseph, I think it's back to you.
Yeah, and I think one thing about cost and quality and everything, I will say that, and it's a weird time right now that no one's hiring, and there's this big lack. But I read an article in demand, but I read an article yesterday, and it was shared on Envoy's career page, and it was, yes, we're actually hiring 200 fleet service clerks, so people who work on the ramp in Dallas right now to support the November and December winter schedule. So as things changed in the industry, some people see downs and some people see ups. But like for a Dallas example, we're seeing a really, we're just adjusting with the schedule. So next round, what questions do y'all have for us?
So let me put some emotions behind it. Here it is, 5:30. Y'all are in college.
I see Zach's on.
Yeah, I'm at home.
We've met
So
Zach.
we got to make this worthwhile. And yeah, our PowerPoint, it's beneficial, but we don't want to just talk at you. We want to talk with you, because let me tell you, Isabella, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but when we get applications, Joseph, feel free to back me up or correct me if I'm wrong. When we get applications and it's names that we remember from situations like this, okay, you listening to me? If it's from situations like this, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So this is a time where we would really encourage you to be interactive, because we're going to remember this far more than we're going to remember reading your resume. And I know that's completely opposite of what your business school teacher or whatever would tell you. But I do business a little way, and I different, but I think Joseph does the same way. So this is where we don't want to beg you for questions, but I have one question, but I want somebody to start asking me questions first. So Joseph, wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, the casual conversation is just gonna reap so much better reward. Maybe he doesn't think that because he's either not speaking or he's just laughing at me. Okay.
I have a question. How many people on here are aviation management students? I mean, I guess you can raise your hand. So one.
So Zach Bell, we know.
Zach, 2, 3. Okay, so a lot.
Kylie,
Good.
Maya.
Good. Here.
So everybody else is a pilot. That's good. So don't forget, I was a pilot too, and then my eyes were opened. That's a joke, so hopefully you understood it. So let me put you all on the spot. So I'm just going to scroll through here, and I'm just going to blast somebody because nobody's speaking up. So let's say that we come to Auburn and we have one position to fill. One, right? There's what, 39 people on here? Do you want me to call on your name, or do you want somebody to just answer? What's going to set you apart from the other 38 people on this call? Well, that's a loaded one, right?
I guess the type of questions that you ask.
Yeah, it's a good start.
I've got one for both Joseph and Alan. So
it's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see y'all too. Glad to have y'all. So
thanks.
Those 200 positions that need to be filled in DFW. So from a ops planning perspective, you mentioned they're coming in for the December, January, the winter season anyway. What does it look like? What is the trigger that makes you decide that, hey, we need to hire these people amidst the pandemic, that sort of thing? And B, how do you plan on training them and getting them accustomed to the Envoy way before that season hits? Because, I mean, it's obviously coming up very soon.
So Joseph, how about you take part A and I'll take part B?
Yeah, I was thinking that's an excellent question. So what happens in terms of staffing and operation and how we get down to that 200 number is we have all of these assumptions. So, it takes X amount of people to work a departure and arrival of an aircraft, both on the ramp and at the gate, and ticket agents and, whatever. So all of that runs in a system that we use, that we import the flight schedule into. As the flight schedule changes, our requirement for headcount changes. Lower flight schedule, obviously there's a less need. Even though we are at a lower flight schedule, there are other things that impact that. So the length of day of the operation, increased cleaning practices calls for more headcount. But what's interesting about Dallas is that and in Hub 2, the schedule and headcount all kind of relates with the number of gates you have and then the peaking. So how peaked that bank is, so the planes that come in and come out is, and the frequency really drives resources. And, that's how we get to that 200 number. And same, we're hiring in Chicago too. So same thing, as we get into de-icing season, for example, in Chicago, which is constantly hit with cold weather, we have to have employees there to de-ice. And then same with a lot of our other small stations. We're still hiring in our small stations just because we're such a smaller company and we really need, people to work, the operation, because we have to cover it for our contracts with Americans. So, yeah. And then Alan can take the second part of the training.
Yeah. So Zach, great question. It's the best one so far. So you do have a great question, and it's training. So here we are in October, and we're advertising that we're going to hire people, and they're going to be put into the position in December. Well, as you can imagine, that seems to be pretty escalated, but really our training program goes from 0 to completely trained and qualified and satisfied within your first 30 days. So really, if we get you on anytime in November, that's good. But so that's training. I think everybody can appreciate the fact that you can go through training and, you can check boxes and you can pass a test, but that just really doesn't represent reality. Reality is being out at the airport, being in the field situation and getting OJT. So what we would do is we would hire them, get them trained. It's minimum 14-day training. So they would go to training at a various hub locations, Charlotte, Dallas, wherever. And then when they come back, we appreciate that in-room training. We really do. But we're going to put you, Zach, in a position to go out and work the flight in the manner you've just been trained. And the reason for that is to connect A to B. And then the only other piece I would say that we could suggest to add to that is it's just like all of you. You're coming from an aviation point of view. So I don't mean any disrespect to people who, what we call street hires. Obviously, all of you know what that is. But a street hire for a field position, they don't understand the lingo. They don't know how we talk. They don't know what we're talking about, and they just don't get the general business idea. But when we have people like you, so yeah, you can go get trained, but you're already 5 steps ahead of the next person because you just get it. So I hope that makes sense, because there's a training aspect to it, but then there's just what I call it, you just get it or you don't, period. And so that's a big deal.
I have a question for you, for both of you, actually. So my question, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it, but even though there's a smaller number of people flying because of COVID, have you guys noticed a higher amount of American Eagle flights? Because there's not really a big need for the big regional or the big mainline jets if there's not as many people flying.
Yeah. So Joseph, I'll go, and then you can, I don't know who wants to go first, but I'll go. So that's another great question. And that's a question that I think we all had as an employee back when this started. So I will tell you, and this is not some insider scoop, but there is a great deal of stability that comes with an operator that operates 76 seats versus 160. And so when we are operating a leg from Dallas to Kansas City on a 737 by American, and then COVID hits, you just can't afford to fly 50 people anymore in that airplane. So your question being so great is, well, American, they took a stance of let's adapt and change to that. So American, it does them no good to support an equipment change from a 737 to a 319. So what do? They call on a regional partner and they say, hey, Envoy, you know what? You got some nice new toys, the Embraer 175, and you do a really damn good job of flying them. How about you pick up this line? So what we do is we pick up a line, and then what does that do on the flip side? It now gets us into another market that we are now exposed to. It gives that ground handler some exposure to how we do business. And what we see on the backside is those people say, hey, this is just me speaking, but they say, man, Envoy came in here, they filled in a hole for American, and here I am working for a third-party contractor, XYZ. I want to buy into that culture, and then I'll go on. So the short part of your question, the answer is American saw that change, and they said, you know what, we just can't continue to do this. We're bleeding money. But the Embraer 175, the 140, the CRJ 900, they can operate at a much different margin ratio than what we can. And so far it's been successful. So, man, that was a great question. So Joseph, anything to supplement to that?
Yeah, and I guess just to add to that, just to and how the schedule's changed so much, and they've really matched. The schedule has shrunk so much from 6,000 flights a day, but it's to match demand really. You look at Dallas, for example, and regional American Eagle is flying more than the mainline is right now. Just like Alan said, that we can take a 175 and fly it to Charleston and Atlanta, or not really Atlanta, but Charleston, and those kind of medium markets that go back and forth between a mainline and a regional jet.
And also, do you think, or do you feel that being American's wholly owned partner kind of put you guys in more of a better spot, I guess you could say, than somebody that wasn't wholly owned, because they would directly go straight to you guys?
So I think you have to look at that in two different ways. The answer is yes. It's strategically far better for us to be owned by American, because when we were going through the merger, we were contemplating being divested. And I would encourage you to look at people like ExpressJet. So ExpressJet, unfortunately, 12 or 11 days ago, they closed their doors. And then you got people like Compass. Well, when you are a standalone company and you are an airline only, when the schedule's pulled, you have nowhere to turn. But when you are a ground handler, in addition to an airline, you're beefing up your resume and your portfolio because you have two different models of business. So the standalone companies that are only airlines, they're just more vulnerable, because at any time a company can say, hey, you know what? We just don't need your flying right now. See you later. And now they have all these pilots, flight attendants, and airplanes that sit on the ground that are useless.
Because I guess American Airlines, they can't really, or they can use the ground handlers, the agents, like all of this, even if they don't need the pilots right then and there.
Right. Yeah. So they would call on us to fill in all those holes. I mean, there's some complexities around it as far as pilot scope and things like that, but it's much easier to call upon a wholly owned because they're not having to rearrange dollars to say, hey, Envoy, go fly this airplane. Good.
And then Alan, I had a question for you specifically. And so I know you had mentioned earlier that you went to school, you are a pilot, you got your ATP. What called you, or what was the biggest thing that called you to change from being a pilot to what you do now?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I don't like to ramble. So if I start rambling, just tune me out and tell me. But so I'm still current. I still have my ATP, and I will never lose that because I'm here to tell you, if you're a pilot and you get that, that's a big deal. And I don't want to have wasted that time in my life. I was flying the ATR, oddly enough, and the lifestyle just didn't work for me. I enjoyed flying. I didn't enjoy all the other aspects to it, and so I also, when I was going to school, I got my management degree, and so I realized that, growing up, so to speak, in aviation, everybody says, the pristine award is to be a pilot, to have the 4 epaulets on your shoulders, and that's true. But what I realized, there was a whole other world out there, and that was the management side. And I'm here to tell you, if you guys and girls in management, it's a big deal, because the management side is what gets to play the armchair quarterback. They're the ones that's calling the shots. The pilots, they do a tremendous job. We couldn't do our jobs without them. But so what called me to be a management person, and I don't want to sound cliche, but I have to do it. It was the fact that I felt like I could actually make a difference, because I could take my education and I could take my experience and I could bridge a gap. I can hold a conversation with a pilot, and I can also hold a conversation with a ground handler, to where when an airplane goes into a station and this pilot gets off and he or she is all irritated and they start talking to this ground handler like, they're below them because they don't understand the lingo. I just felt like at some point in my life, I got to try to make a difference. I don't know that I have yet, but that's a very long, drawn out way of saying that I felt like I could make a difference, but while still holding my ATP license.
Very cool. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah. So I hope everybody understands that management is it's equally as great, and pilot, I love what they do. They're great. So it's a very, very split house, 50-50, both are great. But the only other comment I want to make, and then I'll shut up, is that our presentation, and a lot of times when you go to Envoy Air or really any ground handler, they're going to cater to the airport service side. They're going to cater, hey, let's go be a ticket agent. Let's go be a bag handler. Well, we have 1,500 people in Dallas doing what Joseph does, what Alan does. And so when we say management, we're not saying you have to go to the airport and throw bags for 6 months and then come qualified to take my position. That's not what we're saying at all. I'm here to tell you, you're going to Auburn, what we consider pristine university when it comes to aviation. You're going to come out qualified for a position that we offer at headquarters. So it's don't just set your eyes in the horizons of saying, oh crap, I got to start as a ground handler or as a ramp agent, because that's not the case. Joseph, I'm not going to pick on him, but we're friends enough where I can't pick on him. He's never been a baggage handler a day in his life, and he's damn successful at what he does. So the horizon is just so crazy broad. All right. If I scroll through here, I see people on nice patios. Some people are smiling.
I have a question.
Come on, Kate. Love it.
Earlier you were talking about the safety standards you'll have, and maybe a pilot goes a month or two without flying. How long does a pilot typically go without flying before they have to go through training again? And how often do you see training recurring in a pilot's career?
So pilots, they got to go to, so I can only answer, I have to preface this because I don't want to misspeak. I can only tell you what Envoy standards are. I don't have a clue what everybody else is, but I will tell you, we always mirror ourselves just like Americans. So a pilot, they go to what we call recurrent every 12 months. So I was hired in May, and so every May I would have to go to recurrent training. And then we have the rule that, 3 takeoff and landings every 90 days. So Envoy sets the standard just slightly below that. So every 60 days, you got to go do your flying, but we have that threshold of 90 days. So you have to go fly. So what we did is, like, we have management pilots at Envoy, obviously. What they did is they decided to take a step back and let all the people who were doing the line flying to keep their qualifications, because it's much easier to have a management pilot go fill in a slot than find some, pilot that lives in nowhere, Kansas, get them down to Dallas and fly leg. So the two answers are, you got to go at least once every 12 months, and then 3 takeoff landings every 90 days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good questions. Okay.
Who else has a question?
So
I have a random question, and I'm not sure if you guys could answer it, but I have my mom works for American Airlines, and so we've always flown. So we've always flown with American and on standby. So I guess my question, I saw you guys put it in the PowerPoint once earlier about like baggage handling, that you guys go from American mainline to American Eagle, then back, or between Eagle. How does that work exactly if you have an international flight coming from, let's say, Argentina or something like that, and then as a standby passenger, we're running across the entire, as you said, mile-long terminal in Miami to get to the American Eagle flight? How do they get your bags over there with enough time if it's a close connection or not lost, essentially?
Joseph, you got that one?
Yeah. So in terms of baggage transfer, we have different levels and different, everyone's assigned a different shift. In the shift, they're assigned a different function. So there may be someone who's responsible for something called a hot bag, or a bag that, like you said, has a really close connection time to get that bag from that aircraft, and they're waiting for that bag to go transfer to like another aircraft. And then we have just, the normal baggage transfer who, they're assigned their gate, they go get that, and then they take it back and it goes through the system or whatever, and then on to the next card. So and Alan can speak to this too, because his team oversees baggage performance and baggage, but there's a massive emphasis on, baggage completion, getting the bag to the customer on the baggage plane. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is sometimes it's an absolute miracle that your bags make it.
Yeah.
And that's because when you check in at I'm just going to keep saying DFW because I'm just extremely familiar with it. If you check in at Terminal E, because it's American Eagle, but lo and behold, your gate changes to B, which is also American Eagle. There is 2.7 miles for that bag to travel on a belt alone. Then you got to put it on a cart. Then you got to put it on a belt loader. Then you got to put it in the plane. So all that to say, the next time you see somebody that has loaded your bag, pat them on the back, because they really do a terrific job. So, but as far as the policy procedures that I oversee, we only have 15 minutes. So Isabel, you've done the D2 game, and it can be extremely frustrating, right? So let's say you go from Argentina to Dallas to Birmingham. Well, when you're in Dallas, legally, you cannot book a ticket anything less than 30 minutes, right? I mean, we all know that. So that 30 minutes is not because we want you to go shop at DFW, because we all know that airport prices are astronomical and nobody cares. That 30 minutes gives us 15 minutes to transfer your bag. So by rule, by policy, we only have 15 minutes to get the bag off of one airplane onto the next. So if you come in at 12 and your next flight to Birmingham is at 12:30, then we have to have your bag over there absolutely no later than the 15-minute mark. Does it happen all the time? No. I mean, obviously, coming from Argentina, you can have a customs issue, things like that. But there's rules built into things like that. That's why you just can't go arbitrarily buy any 2 tickets you want. So there's things like that built in that you would never see as a customer, but on the back end, it just makes total sense.
And then kind of along that, I've always kind of wondered these questions, because especially flying standby, that you don't know if you're going to get in that flight. It could be completely packed and you can maybe go or maybe not go. And so if they do take your bag because the plane's full or anything like that, do you just keep them kind of at the base of the plane, kind of ready to go? And if we get on, then you just throw it in. And if we don't get on, you just leave it there and move it to the next plane?
You nailed it. So that's exactly what we do. We put, I'm sure you've seen them before. We have those green stickers that say standby that we put on your bag tag. So that way we know when you're getting on your flight, the gate agent will, like he's Joseph, he's going to say, family X, whatever they made it. We look for their bag and put them on. And if we didn't, we obviously keep the bag off. And then whenever you went, we would let the bag go. Because what would happen is either the airplane would get there with the bag and nobody to answer for it, or you would get there and then we left our bags off. So we call it PP, we call it passenger bag match. So it's got to be identical.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you know what D2 is. So it looks like we have a question in the chat. Joseph, do you see that one? From Jasmine. So do we have any offers for cross-functional agent in Birmingham? Joseph, that one's for you. Seen a job offer in Mobile, Alabama. Lastly, do you have any openings for internships summer 2021? So how about you take Birmingham, and then I will take the two about summer 2021 internships, and then the actually you can answer the cross-functional agent, what we look for too, if you don't mind.
I'm not seeing. Am I seeing the wrong place? Okay, so what's the question?
So first, do
What's
we
the
have
first?
any? Do what?
The chat.
Do we have any offers currently in Birmingham for a cross-functional agent?
You'll have to check our website, and the weird thing is things pop up all the time. I saw that now it's popping up. So you've seen the off. You know, we're hiring in Mobile right now, but maybe not Birmingham. We may be in the future. Birmingham's a unique station where we're sometimes at a need to hire more than other stations, but possibly in the future, you never know. But yeah, we're hiring across the board, and it really just, you have to continuously check to every single day to see where we're hiring.
So I'll take the next one. Do we have any openings for internships summer 2021? You know, I'd like to say yes, but I don't want to be political and tell you a wrong answer. We don't know. And the reason we don't know is because obviously everybody understands that has any kind of business sense. Finances right now is just not good for anybody. But I will tell you this, we find extreme value in our internship, right, Joseph? Extreme value in it. I'm joking. I mean, I'm not joking, but Joseph came from that. So the reason we find so much value in that is because it's not that we get an intern to come in and do a job for a relatively low salary. It's not that at all. It's exactly like Joseph Davidson. It's because they come in and they basically call us out on something. They say, hey, you've been doing this for 14 years. Well, you're kind of stuck in your ways. And here's reason A through Z as to why I can better this. And so that's why when that position came open full time, I don't care if it's illegal or not. I'm here to tell you, it was no question who we were going after. And you're looking at him right now. So do we have internships next year? I don't know, but I can tell you that program is at the top of everybody's list to be funded. So if we're able to do it by any stretch of imagination, the answer is yes, we're going to do it. And that's why I'm telling you, make yourself known right now, right? The next, it's a couple parts here. You apply for an internship. Yeah, sorry about that. We were ready to pull the trigger on some candidates last year or earlier this year for internship, and then of course COVID pretty much stopped the entire world. And then what are the main requirements you're looking for in positions for the cross-functional agent? So Joseph, you want to take that one? Cross-functional requirements.
So cross-functional agent, they are going to be able to work the entire operation. So they can't be picky to the above the wing side or the below the wing side. You have to be able to work in all types of weather. You have to be able to work the ticket counter, the gates, the baggage claim area, the ramp, load, unload bags. And, you know, honestly, that's kind of seems like the most fun position because you get to learn it all really, really quickly. Alan, you had, I guess you had cross-functional agents in your station when you were a manager, right?
Yeah.
Would you say there's a benefit to being a cross-functional agent?
Yeah, so I was a cross-functional agent before I was a general manager, and it is the most diverse job I've ever had. You can go from getting screamed at and cursed at to being the best person on the planet all in 5 minutes. But seriously, I mean, it was what got me interested on the management side in the very beginning. It was remarkable. I mean, you don't have a small bubble. You see the entire airline. It's completely exposed.
Good question. Really good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Who else has a question?
So there's a little bit more. There are lifting requirements, but it's not as much as you would think. So I don't want to say that's a disadvantage. You know, that's something that every general manager at that position would evaluate. All right. Of course. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Does anybody else in the chapter have any other questions for Alan and Joseph? maybe not.
And we all said that y'all are staying busier than ever when we chatted a while back. Could you explain how your jobs maybe changed just in a short, brief kind of way come COVID time, like as far as responsibilities, things like that?
Yeah. You know, I don't know what I clicked here, but I can only see Zach now. I can't see everybody again. But Joseph, do what? Yeah, I'm a 90-year-old trapped in a 31-year-old body. So technology and myself, we don't get along. So Zach, good question. What is our job? I'll speak to me, and then Joseph can speak to himself. It's different, man. It's crazy. We used to think we were busy in the office. I can tell you now, and I know Joseph can attest to this, I have never been so busy in my life. And that's because everything changes. It seems like every day. So whatever procedure we implement right now, the government can come out and say, hey, that's not quite good enough. Let's try that again. So we have to be adaptable, but I don't know how to say this, politically correct, so I'm just going to say it. But obviously, everybody is aware of what's happening in the airline industry, right? There's been tons of layoffs. Well, what does that mean for the people who are still employed? Obviously, we're very fortunate and blessed to be employed still, but that means that we are taking on those roles that are vacant now. So our hats, you wear so many hats, and everybody says you're a jack of all trades. I mean, you can go. I mean, you're currently in my home office right now. You can go look in my closet. My God, there's 750 hats in there all of a sudden, because it's just like overnight, you all of a sudden, above your head said you are X expert, and the list just keeps growing and growing and growing. So Joseph, that's what I'd say. I mean, our jobs are totally different because, my title is manager of policy and procedure, but there's so much more to that because we've all taken on so many roles.
Yeah, and for me, my team traveled a lot, and we were in the office, and it was a good mix and medium between still learning the operation. And I remember back in March, my last trip, coming back, and my manager saying, y'all are about to be busy for the next few weeks. Well, weeks turned into it. We're still busier than ever. And for us, it's trying to plan for, the next month, the next month, the next month, but that plan may change 10 times. So I've learned patience. Patience is very key. And, it's exciting too, just to be on to work on such, something so important right now. Also sad, but it's just, we've all been busy. We've all taken on more responsibility and role as we really try to survive and, come out stronger and more efficient on the other side once all this is over. So.
Yeah. So Zach, that's two good questions. So go ahead and let's cut him off.
Well, thank you.